Okay, do we have any Traffic and Mobility Commission comments, commissioners? Okay, I see one. I'm going to start with Commissioner Linke.
Okay, thanks. On the sending a representative to the council, I think we should, I mean, I didn't have any issues to raise this time, but we should probably make it a little more formal. I think if we have concerns, the commission should discuss those rather than maybe just sending a random commissioner there. But I'm happy to have Commissioner Hunter or Perez or any of us represent us this time. As far as my comments, because our meeting is so short, I guess I'll take up a few minutes just making a couple of reports that I'd like to make to the commission based on some comments I submitted to the City Council on mobility related items in the past month. The first one of the two is that staff had returned to council to again try to convince them to exempt the deficient street segments on El Camino Real and Cannon Road in that college extension area, exempting them from the growth management standard. And one council member changed their vote, so the exemptions were invoked. And as I see it, there wouldn't be a problem with these exemptions as long as progress is made on the project to resolve it, and as long as developers aren't allowed to exploit those exemptions by avoiding having to pay their fair shares for the street improvements. So I'm not anti-development, but I think that developers who are adding traffic to those deficient streets should be compelled to pay their fair shares towards the improvement projects like the college extension, which would help resolve those issues. Concern is that there, as an example, there's a 100-unit apartment complex that's currently being built just south of the Cannon Road deficient segment. And that was reviewed before these new exemptions went into place. But the city at the time allowed that developer to cite a previous exemption that was put on a portion of El Camino Real that's way south of there, several miles south of there, which wasn't impacted, which is a concern. And now there's also a development with about 300 townhouses and apartments being proposed not far north of the El Camino Real Cannon Road intersection. And that will add a significant amount of peak hour traffic to that El Camino Real Cannon intersection. And we're also going to be finding out, I think, next month. I thought we were going to find out this month, but I think it got delayed until next month. The 2018-19 GMP monitoring report, I'm expecting that it will show that that segment north of that intersection of El Camino Real has also now become deficient. So all of the thousands and thousands of daily trips that, just as an example, that 100 apartment complex and the 300 unit development north of that will be adding. And I just don't want the exemptions to be exploited to the point where, well, now we don't have to contribute to the solution to that problem. Okay, so I think we need to keep an eye on that. And the second part of my report is related. I submitted a comment suggesting that the city should relook at the traffic impact fee program. So the growth management plan tells us that conditions can be placed on developers for the traffic that they're adding to the streets that are directly adjacent to their developments, so that they widen the streets or do TDM, whatever, near their developments. But the traffic impact fee program is a more general citywide program that's supposed to be updated every year with new projects and new budgets that addresses indirect effects, because developments all over the city will affect traffic farther away from them too. And this plan hasn't been updated since 2008. So I'm just bringing that up as something that it hasn't been updated for 12 years. I think it needs to be updated. I think we should be recommending that the City Council update the traffic impact fee program, and I'm hoping to add that to our work plan for the next cycle. That's it. Thanks.
Okay. Does staff have any comments to Commissioner Linke's comments?
Hello, this is Paz Gomez. So I wanted to provide the update with regards to, and not break any Brown Act rules, is just for For the College Boulevard, we are moving forward with that. We are aware of developers, fair share, and are very much in keeping with what you had said, Commissioner Linke. We want to make sure that those who need to pay their fair share will do so. And then the other part with regard to the TIF, staff is looking into that. There was funding that was appropriated by City Council to do a TIF study, and we are looking into how that may evolve with regards to a multimodal fee. So staff already has that for action, and we will certainly keep the Traffic and Mobility Commission informed on the status. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Gomez. Any other comments or from commissioners? Commissioner Fowler?
Yeah, so I live near Hidden Park up in Dog Patch, as I call it, near the dog park. And so a neighbor to the Hidden Park, and I thought disingenuously painted his curb red because there's a parking issue there. There's a small amount of parking, but it gets pretty full and parking spills over. So obviously this was a strategy to, I thought would be to fool people into thinking that that was a prohibited parking area. But before I turned him in, or I probably wouldn't, but it's more amusing to me than anything else. I noticed that they had the car in the driveway had a handicapped plaque. So I wanted to make sure that there wasn't some ordinance in Carlsbad that allowed somebody to create a no parking zone in front of their house if they had a handicap issue. And so if somebody could comment on that, that might weigh my decision to complain about it or not, perhaps. So.
As far as I'm aware, there is no law or rule in either the Carlsbad Municipal Code or the CVC that allows a disabled parking to, under their own discretion, mark a space for their use. So we do on occasion get reports of what people think are on our unauthorized red curb, and we do investigate those, check them against our record to see if they're legitimate or not. We also do an evaluation of whether or not red curb would be appropriate, because we don't want to go back and forth. If we know the location, we would do the appropriate studies. We've also had requests by individual property owners saying that, can you place a disabled parking space in front of my house? Historically, we've said no to those requests, just based on the ADA issues that may be present and the responsibility of that property owner, if they have a driveway, if they have a garage space, to provide accessible parking spaces, and not to have that obligation fall on the public street.
So does that mean that you do sometimes, at the request of a property owner, to put no parking in front of, put a red curb in front of their house? Is that?
Yes, based on site distance issues. Sometimes if the curb between two properties is so short that a parked car would impede either driveway, we've done that as well.
Okay.
But usually we do an investigation, and if the red curb is affecting more than one property, we'll send letters to both those properties. That we don't want to get into the neighbor versus neighbor situation.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. So this is totally unmarked other than it's red, and I'm trying to think whether they put bookend white markings at the end.
So before I give,
I think we're starting to get a little bit beyond.
All right, that's fine. Thank you.
thank you. Any other comments? Commissioner Perez?
Yeah, just a question in regards to evaluating parking, on public streets in the city of Carlsbad. I maybe directed to Mr. Kim. On our website, if a community member has an issue or wants to have some kind of evaluation by the staff, is that located on the website, and what are the procedures or protocol?
I believe so. I believe there's via different avenues, either phone numbers and or email addresses. I think there's also apps that are available to the public, accessible through the city website to contact city staff for any parking concerns or requests.
Thank you.
Okay. In terms of the 2 public comments, is staff going to look into the comments?
Yes, we will.
Okay. Any other comments from the commissioners at this point? Okay. When are we gonna do the Commissioner Vice Chair Johnson?
This is kind of a silly question, but Poinsettia Lane, it's a 50-mile-an-hour zone. Is it ever going to be designated as anything other than a lane? That's just by the way.
I mean,
You mean the name, Poinsettia Lane?
Yeah. It's not exactly a lane.
I don't think so. I think the name's the name. I don't think it's meant to denote the width of the street. I think it's just.
Okay, it's just silly.
So
It is a single lane in that one part that is being complained about, that one lane. It goes between 2 and 1 lane several times.
Well, it was named a lane in 1901 when it was a lane. It didn't go through, so hence the name. That's the end of the history lesson.
So are we going to present Vice Chair Johnson with her resolution of commendation right now or no?
Yes,
Yes.
let's do it. Yes, yes.
Can do that? Okay. So I'm going to read this. So I'm going to read the Traffic and Mobility Commission resolution of commendation of Johnny Johnson. Whereas Johnny Johnson was appointed to the Traffic and Mobility Commission on July 27, 2016 by City of Carlsbad City Council. And whereas Johnny Johnson has served on the Traffic and Mobility Commission as Vice Chairperson from October 2018 through July 2020. And whereas Johnny Johnson has been the rational voice during the Traffic and Mobility Commission meetings. And whereas the Traffic and Mobility Commission of the City of Carlsbad wishes to commend Johnny Johnson for her earnest and faithful direction and participation in traffic and pedestrian safety, transportation planning, and mobility matters that were brought before the Traffic and Mobility Commission. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Traffic and Mobility Commission of the City of Carlsbad does hereby extend its grateful appreciation to Johnny Johnson for having diligently served the people of Carlsbad for the past 4 years. Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. Yay!
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, so with that said, what else do we have on the agenda? No more public comments? We're good at that? Okay. Any final comments before we adjourn? I mean, this is unbelievable.
Oh.
An hour and 8 minutes.
Yeah, enjoy it. I don't think the next months will be nearly this short, so.
Okay, well, if nobody, go ahead, Nathan, you had something?
No, that's it.
No,
Hey, without the recording, it could have been an hour. Yeah.
I know, right? Okay, well, without any more comments or concerns, thank you so much. We're going to adjourn the meeting and it's 4:08 p.m. Bye. Thank you. See you, Mrs. Johnson.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody.